What is going on, Nuggets Nation, NBA fans? I am Tom Leuthner. Welcome back to another episode of Nuggets Today. So, the scenery change is a little different here on the road for at least the next day or two, but we do have some updates for you guys. So, the first thing I want to start with is the staff update. We are finally in the David Adelman reign. It has officially started. So, as of this episode, the Nuggets are not extending the contracts of Ryan Saunders, Popeye Jones, Charles Klask, or Steve Graham. Now, for me, I'm looking back and I'm realizing that everything that David Adelman has been saying in his presser is officially true. He wants to rebuild this entire organization, whether it's players that they're going to be adding or the way that the game is going to be played in for the Denver players next year. And I think it's a good thing. I think that they're, like I've been saying, the culture of the chemistry still needs to maintain in Denver, but at the same time, they need a culture change when it comes to how they play the game. I think that Adelman was saying that he wants a more physical, if it's not as fast of a pace game, that's fine. But as long as they can get their buckets, come out, score, do what they need to do in order to win, I think it's great. We might see some different coaches, that people that we haven't seen before in Denver's organization, obviously, guys who are going to bring a different outlook to how Denver should play and how they should continue to run their offenses through Jokic, how they should continue to attack different teams defensively. And that's something that we saw from Adelman. But I think with different minds now, it is probably the best thing for Denver, strictly because it was not working with who was in the system prior to. So I think that this move is massive, and you can really see that the leadership role that David Adelman is finally taking. Again, I've covered his chemistry with the players, and I think it's a great thing that he is able to have a good relationship with the players. But I also think it's massive for him to finally come in and take control because, like I've been saying, this is now his team. This isn't Mike Malone's team anymore. This isn't Calvin Booth's team. And we really don't have a GM at the moment. Again, at the time of this episode, there's no GM. So we don't know what that GM is even going to come in and do if they do anything. So right now, for David Adelman to take over, it's massive because, like I've been saying, they need somebody to lead, and he is doing that. He is now going to go find the guys that he thinks fit this team perfectly in order to, maybe develop some players like he's been saying, because they need to be able to do that in order to obviously find a game plan that fits the Nuggets and how we should play with the lack of shooting that we have. And the other thing is to I was just saying in offense is find that game plan. And that game plan is not only going to come from what they have, but hopefully what they add. And that's the next topic I want to get into here, and that is the names of the people that have been entering this new topic and the new mix for people. A potential trade target I've been seeing right now for the Nuggets is Cody Martin. And I think this is an interesting trade target strictly because Denver tried to get him at the deadline this past year. I don't think that he's that good. He was on a slight minute restriction from what he's been used to throughout his career because he has been a rotational guy. But he sort of saw the lack of minutes this season specifically. But he is a 3-and-D wing. Guys like Torian Prince I've been covering. The thing that makes me nervous is it's not the biggest upgrade in the world. And I'm not saying that Prince, I'm not saying that Bruce Brown, I'm not saying that Seth Curry are, but he's not the biggest upgrade. And it's looking like it's going to be either Strother, Najee, Watson, and either a first or a second, which I think is way too much for him. So again, I think it's good that there's people that are even in the mix for Denver. Who knows if the manager is going to come, the new GM is going to come in and actually make these moves happen. But at the same time, this is the first time that we're looking around and going, okay, these are guys that Denver can target, and it's realistic. Last year we looked at Westbrook and it happened. This year we're looking at guys like Cody Martin. Again, I just don't want to give up. If I'm Denver, if I'm a fan of Denver, I don't want to watch them give up a guy like Strother who has potential for a semi-younger vet, I guess, in a guy like Cody Martin who's just regressing at this point. If I'm them, I would try to go get maybe Caleb Martin, his twin brother, who I think is actually better than him right now. I know that Cody's played his parts on some teams, but I think that Caleb is actually better, and I think that it's going to take more to trade for him. But if we're going to get rid of Watson, Strother, Zeke Nnaji we could dump for a second-round pick. I don't even care at this point. But if we're going to get rid of Watson or Strother, it should be for a guy who's legitimately good enough to come in and make a difference for Denver. And I don't think that Cody Martin is that guy realistically. I think that he's a good player, but I don't think that he's going to make your team a championship caliber team over a guy like Strother or Watson. Watson was getting some minutes on a championship team. Watson was getting rotational minutes on a team that went to the semi-conference semifinals and only lost because of injuries, realistically. So I wouldn't want us to move Watson unless it's for something that makes sense, like going out maybe again. I think I've covered this before. Maybe trying to get a second rounder for him to get Hanson Yang, if that's something that I'm very big on that move, obviously, and I covered it I think for like the last 4 or 5 episodes because I think that's probably the best fit if Denver wants to get a backup big. Or like I covered last episode, maybe trading him for Dalton Connect if that's a serious, if those are serious trade talks, but that's probably not likely. So I wouldn't want to see him move for a guy like for a guy like Cody Martin, who won't make the biggest difference in the organization for Denver in order to push them to a championship. There are also some other guys that I want to talk about here, and they're all starting around Denver right now. And again, it's a lot of backup bigs, which is a great thing to see. So I want to cover 2 to 3 of them right now, and actually talk about if I think they're good fits or not. The first guy that I want to talk about is Clint Capella. He's coming off, a very big contract for the Hawks for what he is, a rebounding defensive center. He can catch lobs, can finish at the rim, does what you need him to do, I guess. Do I think it's the biggest upgrade for Denver? Not really. Do I think it helps them? 100%. I think he's better. But I also get nervous. You look at guys like this who are aging, and this is exactly what happened with Dario Saric this past season. They brought him in thinking that he would be good enough to play, and he didn't do anything. He got his opportunities in the regular season, and they didn't amount to anything because he struggled. He's getting older. He's not in a system that really fits his type of play, which is funny to say because he could stretch the floor. But Capella can't, and I'm sure Capella could play the DeAndre Jordan type of role. But do we want to see another center like that? I wouldn't personally. I don't want to see another kind of center like DeAndre Jordan, who's just aging and is known for defense, rebounding, and finishing, and he couldn't do anything when it came to playing a team like the Celtics, where they have a big that could stretch the floor. Or a team like Minnesota, who had a big in Naz Reid that could stretch the floor. Obviously not Rudy Gobert, but then you have to strategically work your minutes to make sure that this guy's only in when we could take advantage of situations. So I'm actually not the biggest fan of that. Another guy who's can't really stretch the floor that well, but is a decent option for Denver is Goga Bitadze. And I think that it could be a good move. Obviously he didn't get many minutes this year, when everybody was healthy for Orlando, which I think is funny because when he did play, he was good. So I actually really do like the potential of bringing in Goga. I think that he could actually fit Denver's system. Again, he's not the best shooter in the world, but I mean, listen, we might have to trade for him. Obviously, there's potential for us to go get somebody else who could be cheaper. But like I said, he played well in the minutes that he got for Orlando. He's a playoff caliber backup center, and we saw that in Orlando. So I think that's actually a good fit. And the last guy I want to briefly cover here is somebody that doesn't make the biggest difference. And with DaRon Holmes coming back, I don't think it makes the most sense. And that is Precious Achiuwa. I think he's good. Like I said, stretches the floor, 6'9", 6'10", 6'8", around that range. But I think that DaRon Holmes can just play that. So that name stirring around makes me a little nervous because, again, I think that's exactly the same as Braden Saric, like I said. Not that Precious is as old, but I think DaRon Holmes just fits the exact same role, so why bring another guy in like that? Another name I'm seeing be in trade talks with Denver is a guy who I think they should bring in, and he definitely helps the bench, but he could even start, and that is Keon Ellis. There's some names being spoken about, and obviously it's the offseason, it's all skepticism right now, but I think that Keon's awesome. I saw a trade that was Watson and a first for Keon Ellis, and like I said, if we're going to get rid of Watson, it has to be, or if Denver's going to get rid of Watson, it has to be for somebody that makes sense. I also saw another trade that would include a backup big, and that is Watson, Najee, and our Denver's 31 first for Valanciunas and Keon, and that's ideal. Is it realistic? It's not as realistic as Watson and a first for Keon Ellis, but it's not that bad of a trade realistically for either team because you're getting younger in Sacramento. You have the potential now to develop these two guys on your bench when your team is a lot of veteran players, and Denver's getting exactly what they need. That is a shooting guard that could shoot the ball a little bit. That is a backup center who can extend the floor for you, and you're getting rid of the contract of Zeke Najee. And I'm fine with bringing on a contract of a guy like Valanciunas because at least he has he's capable of playing. These other guys are on our roster, on Denver's roster, but they're not capable of playing, and we're seeing that. Obviously, Watson is, but Zeke Naji isn't. So I think that trade's ideal. I would love to see it. Again, it's all skepticism right now because the offseason still hasn't officially started for anybody since the playoffs are still going on. But those are moves that I think Denver needs to make in order to actually contend next year. And next episode, we're probably going to cover some more names. But that's all I got for you guys tonight. Like I said, I'm on the road. So again, I'm just trying to get the content out for you guys to watch, trying to do the daily content still. But like I said, that's all I got for you guys today. Thank you guys for checking it out, and I'll see you tomorrow.